This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and it's that time of year, hernia time. Okay, it's 7.93 pounds, which is like 3.6 kilograms. What else could this be but the MSI Titan 18HX, I suppose technically the NAI. So this is the 2025 edition of their most performant gaming laptop. Is it the most powerful gaming laptop that you can buy mainstream, not like small boutique water-cooled specialty items? We're going to find out now. So one thing to note, this lovely black finish somehow attracts more fingerprints than a razor blade. Lately, a lot of black gaming laptops are actually worse than razor blades. And it's probably MSI's best looking Titan yet. Yeah, it's gotten a lot thinner. I mean, several years ago, these things were like 2 inches thick. This is about 1¼ inches thick, but they still do. MSI always has interesting design decisions. Like this is a magnesium aluminum casing. It's actually very posh, but they have this two-tone case that probably to most of us looks a little cheesy, but they think it's a good thing. Oh, and you have the blue highlights on the butt vents here. So, okay, that's the looks. The build quality on this, though, is very good. Obviously, this is a different aesthetic from something like a Razer Blade or a MacBook Pro. It's a gaming laptop, but it's not as bad as it could be. And in terms of thickness, in terms of looks, they've come a long way. But who's really come a long way? Intel, actually, with the Arrow Lake HX processor. So after years of not just us, but pretty much everybody complaining, sure, if you throw enough watts at any processor and make enough heat and generate enough fan noise, then you're going to have a performant processor. Well, they have gone modern here. Chiplet design, a 3nm process made by Taiwan Semiconductor. That's where the fabric happens to make the processor. They're designed by Intel. Anyway, this thing is head to toe going right up there with AMD Ryzen's best processors in terms of efficiency. What does this mean? 2 years ago, we reviewed the Titans. For some reason, we missed last year, and that had the 13900 HX processor in it. And with a 4090 at the time, and you know, you would think I would love to use it. I am a gamer, and it was too hot and too loud. And usually I personally go for 18-inch gaming laptops because I need to move them from room to room. I don't need to take them with me. And the reason I like them in big part is because you get the most powerful laptop with the best cooling, so less noise, less heat. Well, that wasn't the case. This is night and day difference. So Intel has done good things here. In terms of the processing speeds, you know what, with AMD Ryzen 9, the 9955 HX processor, there are not enough out there. We haven't gotten one in yet. From what I've seen on other sites who have benchmarked them, this is pretty close, within 3% of the performance. So that says a lot. That means Intel has done good things here. So yay that. Also, it is faster than the outgoing generation processor by 10 to 20%, depending on the test you look at, while making less heat, while making less noise, while making this a pleasant laptop to use. Now, it's still a gaming laptop with a RTX 5090 inside. So yes, you're going to hear fans, but it's not going to be super duper loud. So when we talk about performance, you may have noted Intel 285 HX, not 275, which is what we see in most gaming laptops. There's not a lot of difference. There's some IT security features associated with the chip, and it's 100 megahertz faster, so it's not like it's going to be that much faster which you're going to find in any other gaming laptop. But Intel wanted to make sure that we had the best to test, so we have that one. I do want to say, though, that MSI did a good job with stability here. Now, a lot of gaming laptops have been pretty wonky out of the box with the RTX 5000 series launch because of NVIDIA drivers, but MSI has really held everything else together well, and even their driver instabilities with NVIDIA were a little bit less noticeable, so it's a good experience there. Now, things to talk about here, compared to previous generation, now you have 2 RAM slots instead of 4. I'm okay with that. That does max out RAM at 96 gigabytes. So for people who are using this for some kind of 3D modeling, scientific analysis, video editing, still 96 is enough. But some people do like 128, and they're going to be going back to Lenovo ThinkPad big workstations, mobile workstations for their needs if they really do need that amount of memory. But for most of us out there, I think the 2 slots is fine. But now they've upped the M.2 SSD slots to 4. So, I mean, you've got a lot of room for storage, which again is probably going to appeal to video editors, some modelers and stuff like that who actually need more local storage. even though games are huge these days, most of us don't need to keep that many of the games in our library on our SSDs at a time. Most of the configurations have at least 4 terabytes of storage. Some come with 6. You can get it with 64 or with 96 gigabytes of RAM. There's a variety of, MSI always has a lot of configurations. So there's that. Something to keep in mind. We have a vapor chamber on board for cooling too. That does help. And a copper heat pipe that actually runs over the boot SSD. Our configuration, by the way, has a RAID, and that makes the SSD benchmark numbers. You can see it's super fast, very nice, and it does support PCIe 5. But another thing to talk about is the display. Now, not the first time they've done this, but this is a 4K 18-inch, 120 hertz mini LED display. So you might say 4K, that's just too much for gaming. It's not. We'll get into that. But again, that will appeal to those who are doing video editing and other things where they do need higher resolution. And obviously there's some crossover here, especially when you're talking about how much these things cost. A lot of them might be company spends or professional tax deductible spends for that kind of thing. When you're talking about something that can be $5,000 to $6,000 and maybe even more sometimes. Pricing is a little weird right now. We'll talk a bit more about the pricing later too. So this display is a very nice display. I noticed that unlike the competing Asus ROG Strix Scar 18, which has an HDR certification like HDR 1000, this one doesn't list a certification. Now, side by side, in terms of colors and contrast and all that sort of thing, we don't know how many dimming zones this has. I haven't been able to find that information either, which is the same. Sure, it's mini LED, it has a bunch, but anyway, it looks really close, really close. I kind of like the color a little bit better on the MSI. I kind of like the color accuracy and the contrast maybe a little bit better than the Asus out of the box, but you can calibrate them. Anyway, it's a very nice display, 120 hertz. Given the high resolution, that probably makes sense. Obviously, this is not for you esports people. There is no G-Sync. Weird. Or Advanced Optimus. You can switch to the DGPU, you can switch to the iGPU, you can use the old-fashioned Optimus, but there's no Advanced Optimus. So some people really think that's horrible. Why would you do that? I think it kind of makes sense. This is something you don't really run on battery power much and you want the most performance out of it. So I typically set up, and what I did is I put it DGPU mode only, and I probably will never change it out of that, using it as a normal person would use it, not when I'm testing and all that sort of thing. You have GPU options. Most configurations have an NVIDIA RTX 5090, 175 watt. There is a 5080 option too. That one would be the less expensive one. There's the North-Smith edition, which I think you can get with either of those GPUs, and it has, well, North-Smith looking lid on it. Whatever, for that part. So very performant GPUs, and there's been much brouhaha over NVIDIA's driver state that came out for the 5000 series laptops or RTXs, and yeah, we went through that, and it was crazy making it first. So now they're pretty stable, and the most recent driver release actually fixed it, so it will go up to that 175 watts or 171 watts. Now here's the interesting thing, because I did a lot of the benchmarks with just the previous driver, where typically it was going into the 150s to the mid 160s, and I did some of the gaming benchmarks again in actual in-game, and it didn't make much of a difference in FPS. I mean, 2 or 3 or something like that. So that's not going to really change much here in terms of real world use. But just so you know, because everybody gets paranoid about it, everything is some conspiracy theory. Well, NVIDIA just kind of screwed up and they fixed the screw up. There's that. As you may already know, if you've watched other reviews or you've watched some of our other RTX 5080 reviews that we have done, and well, soon more 5090s coming, the raster performance, which means the traditional performance if you're measuring it, is only about 10% better than the previous generation. So there's no reason to upgrade. And as NVIDIA will tell you, and as I'm going to tell you, if you're not interested in using the latest frame generation, and honestly you should be because it's a lot better in terms of artifacting, motion blurring, all those things, it's really hard to see, especially in the heat of game, any deterioration in quality, but you can go up to 4x frame generation. So 1 real frame, 3 interpolated frames in between. And that's why that 4K display starts to make sense. Because I'm like, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I've been playing QHD plus resolution on some other laptops, and I'm going to play it in 4K. And when I did that without turning on frame generation, it was about 45 frames per second on very high settings. And That's not enough to make me happy. I like that kind of game to be around 60. So then I enabled frame generation, and there I was pushing 80s in the frame rate. And then I was much more in my happy place. So it makes gaming in 4K possible. And that is part of the point of frame generation, that you can game at higher resolutions without really losing measurable quality. And looking at this game side by side on a 2K display, 18 inches, like the Scar 18, and this 4K, it does look better in 4K, even with frame generation. So to me, it's worth it. If you play those kind of games, which I do, I play Last of Us, Assassin's Creed Shadows, those kind of games. Again, if you're a first-person competitive shooter, you're probably just going to go for a lower resolution, really high refresh display anyway. All right. And also, NVIDIA, if you haven't noticed yet, has become an AI company. So I think what we're going to see in the way of improvements from them in the future is what we're seeing right now, which is improvements in AI. The same AI that takes your little smartphone camera and makes it look way better than it ever should, because AI can do that stuff really well. It's doing the same stuff with frames and games. So there's that. Take it as you will as to whether you decide that that's worth it to you or not. So other goodies include a Cherry MX mechanical low-profile keyboard. What's weird here, per key RGB SteelSeries software, the usual for MSI, is not every key is a mechanical key. I don't know why. Maybe they needed some space on the underside. They didn't have room for it. But for example, the number pad is not mechanical. For something this expensive and fairly big, I'm a little bummed by that. You do notice it. You do feel it. Especially gamers sometimes do use that number pad, right? But the rest of it feels very nice and works great. The trackpad will probably be somewhat divisive. It's one of those borderless, seamless, you cannot feel it trackpads, which happily it has RGB lighting. So you can visually light it up to know where it is since you can't feel where it is. It's an okay key trackpad. It's not one of my favorites. It's not MacBook Pro or Razer Blade level, but it's okay. It's fine. The borderlessness of it doesn't actually bother me in daily use. Other goodies include Thunderbolt 5, which does require add-in circuitry. It's not the default, so you don't see that in every gaming laptop. Good to see here in something that's expensive. You have HDMI 2.1, you have USB-A ports, of course. Very good headphone audio. That's one thing. The speakers on this has 4 speakers and then 2 woofers. It's just okay. For a big chassis like this, it's sort of like, really? Really? Well, but the headphone audio, I noticed, well, I would say the Scar 18 2024, not 2025, the speakers aren't as good there, but that one had the best audio. It was really good, but the headphone audio wasn't as good as MSI. They always do a good job with that. Now, another nice thing is there are still ports on the back. With a lot of gaming laptops, we've seen the entire rear section be used as a cooling radiator area. So the 3 things you most likely would want to have on the back, HDMI 2.1, the power connector, and your Ethernet jack are on the back. You have Thunderbolt 5 and USB-A on the sides, your headphone jack, and a UHS 3 full-size SD card slot. Again, a nod to creators' fast SD card slot. To get inside, Phillips head screws all around. No more of those anti-tamper stickers over any of the screws like MSI used to use. Thank you, MSI, for stopping that. All the screws are the same length, so you don't have to worry about who goes where. And you know, much as I pick on MSI for their aesthetics, obviously a lot of design went into this. I mean, look at how involved this is, the 3D-ness and the difference of all these different rubber feet here. And this is real ventilation here, folks. One thing I really hate in gaming laptops is faux ventilation, right? This is actually really vents every which way. Maybe that's why it has 2 large fans. It doesn't need any 3rd fan. Thank you very much. So there it is, and the underside looks like that. All right. And so here are the internals. Everybody likes to be tidy these days, so we got tidy here. Big old vapor chamber right here, that copper heat pipe for the boot SSD, as I mentioned. Happily, unlike the HP Omen Max 16 that we reviewed, you can actually, looks like, separate that off, so you don't have to take off the entire vapor chamber if you want to change your boot SSD. Yay, there's screws right there that'll hold that in place. Yay. Your other SSD slots are right there. So you're saying, where's the RAM slots? It's under this little cover right here, this shield. So it's one of those things where you can break a fingernail and pop it off. All right, we've taken the RAM cover up. Boy, this thing is on tight. It's really annoying. These little clips around the edges here. Make sure when you put it back on, you get it just so it doesn't short out anything on the motherboard. Anyway, 2 RAM slots, as we talked about. big old fans right here, and we have a socketed Intel/Killer Wi-Fi 7 card with Bluetooth 5.4 on board too. And we have some rubber isolation around our speakers over here. Watch out, they may pop off when you pull the bottom cover off. Make sure they're back where they belong, over there. And those are your two woofers for the audio system. So battery life, yeah, it's a big honking gaming laptop. Don't expect much. It might have a 99.9 watt-hour battery inside, but typically for productivity use, we're not talking gaming, you know, 2 hours or so, maybe an hour gaming, but you don't want to unplug it when gaming because you lose a lot of performance. 400-watt charger, not too huge considering that. In terms of performance, is this the fastest gaming laptop of the mainstream ones? Like I said, not crazy water-cooled specialty boutique ones. Yes, it is. It benchmarks faster than everything we've gotten in. We have, well, obviously the Razer Blade with the RTX 5090 is going to do decently on graphics, but it doesn't have the fastest processor, so that one's not that hard to beat. It's beating the Scar 18 as well. It's very fast. It should be. It's a big, honking, serious, and expensive machine. Every game we threw at it, I was testing at 4K because the frame rates were so good, especially if you enable frame generation on. Some of them, even without frame generation, the frame rates were excellent on it. When I put it on QHD to be competitive with the other laptops whose native resolution is QHD, it beats them. It should, right? Pricing. Let's talk about pricing. Titans have gotten really expensive. They used to be kind of pricey, and now in the past couple of generations, they've gotten crazy. And now we have tariffs and all the other reasons why gaming laptops have gotten too expensive, honestly. Shortages of NVIDIA GPUs, whatever is going on here, the 25% increase in pricing due to baseline tariffs. So in the past week, the price of this actually came down, which is nice to see, but it's still at about $5,000 with an RTX 5080, and it's around $6,000 with the 5090. Now you do get the 4K mini LED display, the mechanical keyboard, all those nice things, at least 64 gigs of RAM and probably 4 terabytes of storage. You can go up to 6 depending on the config and all that sort of thing. It is expensive too. So, you know, every year I review this and it's like, somebody must buy them because they keep making them. It's too rich for my blood. Would I use this though if I could have this and afford to keep it? This year I would. Like I said, 2 years ago, it was too hot and too loud for me. This one, sure, if money was no object, I would use it, which is a good thing for something this expensive. I'm Lisa from MobileTechReview. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos. Thumbs up if you like this vid. And remember, hit that notification bell so you know about our videos.